A day morning at school. There are students who are committing bad acts, in the form of bullying. It can be seen that this week's student is experiencing this bullying. This mischievous student is named Lee Dauan. He is famous for bullying cases at his school. He looked helpless. It looks like they all really enjoyed this. Dauan deliberately dropped ice cream in front of the student. He asked the weak student to eat his fallen ice cream. Because the actions of the weak student took too long, it wasn't long before Dauan immediately forced him to do what he wanted. He immediately apologized to Dauan about it. Dauan also told him that once there was also a geeky student who was weak like him, named Dajuan. At that time he also bullied a weak student named Dajuan, even worse. But there was an incident where he tried to fight him at that time, to put him in danger. But he survived the situation, and managed to take revenge on Dajuan. So he told the weak student not to fight him at this time. School hours were on. He really liked when class hours were running. It's not like he's smart when it comes to studies. But there was something he didn't want to happen. Something that makes him unable to do anything. In class he also experienced verbal bullying. It seemed to him that verbal bullying wasn't that bad for him. Then the moment he hated the most came. When the bell rings, the lesson ends. Dauan will start bullying him hardness when class ends. And he told him to go rooftop to school now. Afternoon arrived. Outside the school there was a man coming to the place. The students who saw it looked scared. It turned out that the man brought a lot of people, and it could also be said that they were a gang. They all came to the school together to do something. On the other side, Dauan still does bad things to those weak students. After doing this, he immediately ordered him to do other crazy things. But he couldn't do that. But Dauan's words of intimidation really stressed him out, and he couldn't stand it anymore. Sung is the weak student's name, and now he intends to do something crazy. Because Sung was just silent and thinking about something, it didn't take long. Dauan slapped him. He immediately fell. It turns out Sung's guts still don't have the courage to do something crazy like that. Dauan immediately took Sung's sandals and threw them. He dropped Sung's sandals down. And told him to take the sandals downstairs. Dauan tells him to hurry up and not waste time. While crying, he immediately went downstairs and took his sandals. He was very angry with his weak self. He thought that life was like on TV or comics, but in reality it wasn't. The reality is that the life he lives is very hard. He couldn't equate it with TV or comics. Sung hoped that at some moment, someone would help him. It seemed he was shocked by what he saw. The mysterious man continued to stare at Sung with a sharp gaze. He immediately took Sung's sandals. They looked like a gang ready to fight, and that scared Sung into confusion. He, who was covered in wounds, didn't seem to know what to do. Then this man continued to stare at him with an intimidating look. It turns out he just wanted to give the sandals to Sung. His target is at this school. Was on the roof of the school. Without thinking, they immediately entered the school. The students at the school were suddenly shocked. They seemed to enter the school in large numbers without difficulty. Their gazes really intimidated every student. They are confused about what the gang wants to do at this school. They all looked fierce, as if they wanted revenge. This teacher also knew that the man was Dajuan, who had been a student at the school. But there is something different about Dajuan now compared to before. The current Dajuan has a very different facial expression, and he currently looks like someone else. On the other side, Dauan looks like he's going to come back down from the roof. Suddenly they were all on the roof to meet Dauan. He who saw that man immediately understood that this man's name is Dajuan, the victim of Dauan's bullying in the past. The other students also know that Dajuan has returned to this school, and try to see him, but they were prevented. But there is a delinquent student who comes from this school named Park Yun-hyun, and he tries to solve this problem. They also try to ask about the purpose of the gang's arrival at his school. He started to bluff by slapping the man's arm as a form of threat. But this man didn't seem to be bothered and started to tell him that right now Dajuan wanted to be disturbed. He who saw the scary man looked scared and gave up his plans. Dauan was confused there. Why was Dauan here? Even though in the past he had already finished Dauan. He started talking to Dauan. He knew that in the past Dauan had tried to finish him off. He immediately knew that Dauan's coming here was to take revenge on him. Without further, he immediately hit Dauan with stick wood. It made him fall. After dropping him, Dauan told him to get back up immediately. Here he knows that right now Dauan is very dangerous. The people who follow him are also very dangerous too. Because they were all dangerous, at that moment Dauan immediately apologized to Dauan, because in the past he had bullied him and also tried to finish him off. He did this because Dauan in the past caused him harm and now his legs were disabled. But now he regrets all the actions he did to Dauan in the past. But it disgusted and irritated him. He immediately dropped his wooden stick. Dauan looks relieved about that. But that was impossible. Dauan immediately slapped Dauan hard. He was scared and confused by Dauan's actions. He didn't seem to hear Dauan's words and slapped him again and again. At the same time he apologized again with a frightened face. At that moment, Dauan immediately hit him hard. The blow causes a lot of damage. But Dauan fiercely attacked Dauan again with a punch from his right hand. Before getting hit, Dauan ran scared. One of them immediately caught him and tried to scare him. Dauan looks very afraid of what he is facing. They all looked serious about what they were doing. That now Dauan wants to finish off Dauan. He was very scared and can't do anything at the moment. He started to make a cornered Dauan on the roof of the school. Because Dauan was so scared, he didn't do this. But there, these delinquents heard embarrassing words coming out of Dauan. The other students also laughed when they heard Dauan's confession. With a face full of wounds and a face that was afraid of something, begging to be forgiven. And he mentioned Cho Hangil's name in his apology. Dauan immediately made Dauan unable to talk much anymore. He emphasized that Cho Hangil was not included in Dauan's problem. But there he told that the person who had defeated Cho Hangil was Shin Woojin, Haegwang group. But here he announced that his arrival was not actually revenge, but Dauan was in contact with the Haegwang group and tried to summon them. And there Dauan tried not to allow Dauan to use the services of the Haegwang group again. They all finally left that place. Evening arrived. This person looks like he's going through something bad. It turned out that the men had debts, had not been paid to them. This person is named Iltak, a Haegwang contract manager. He was angry because this old man had not kept the contract they had agreed to. On the other side, Dauan is walking around the city, and he remembers Hangil a little. That Hangil was a teacher to him. And he taught about fighting, then how to have a family. But now Hangil is no longer here. As he was walking, he heard a scream in the building. The old man continued to be beaten until he was battered. Now Iltak has no other way but to hand this man over to the Haegwang sales team. But suddenly Dauan was behind Iltak. It seemed he had been looking for him all this time. He immediately panicked and was afraid. Dauan threw a hard punch at Iltak's face. So that make bounces off with just one hit. They all looked shocked by the Iltak which fell with one blow. There, Dauan immediately asked where the boss of Haegwang group, named Shin Woojin. In the past, Iltak was at the top and dominated everything. He also used to have a group called Woojin High. But suddenly his life changed drastically because Dauan managed to defeat him in the past. After that his life was at the bottom. But suddenly someone approached him. Namely Haegwang group, and his name is Shin Woojin. He felt that man was on top. Iltak want to be like Shin Woojin, and coincidentally he needs a young person who has the spirit of a leader. So he decides to join the Haegwang, and try to be on top once again. He really enjoyed the moment when he was at the top. But now things will be different again. Dauan will touch the life of Iltak again. This person was very angry because he dared to deal with the Haegwang group. But he didn't care about that, and continued to do what he wanted. They immediately attacked Dauan at the same time. He could easily avoid all attacks from the Haegwang group. Then a surprise attack came from behind. With the speed and strength of his hand blows, it was overcome. He also used street fighting methods, by throwing sand. After throwing sand, then hitting him, but an attack from behind occurred. He saw a piece of wood on the floor, then immediately kicked the piece of wood until it hit his opponent. One by one the people from the Haegwang group were defeated by Dauan. And now he handles all the Haegwang groups still standing. Iltak was very upset about this. Because in the past he was defeated by Dauan, who at that time was just learning to fight. The attack immediately came towards him. Dauan managed to block a strong kick from Iltak with his hand. Now he will avenge his past defeats. Dauan with his calm expression will accept whatever it is. Iltak know the story about Hangil Jo who defeat, and about Hangil Pham who disappeared. That makes luck on his side. Because now it's easier for him to beat up Dauan, who is no longer protected by Hangil Pham. He managed to dodge the quick blow easily. He also managed to avoid the quick kick. But he didn't stop there, and continued to launch attacks. A kick full of revenge. But Iltak's powerful kick was anticipated by Dauan. He was confused about Dauan's current strength. Suddenly he threw a hard punch towards Iltak's ribs. It made him experience severe pain. This was beyond his expectations, even though he had now gotten stronger, but Dauan was even stronger. 5. He thought that at this time he couldn't beat Dauan. However, Haegwang's subordinates began to underestimate Iltak. He couldn't accept that. He immediately took out a knife from his pocket. He then started attacking using the knife repeatedly. Dauan quickly managed to avoid being hit by the knife. But he didn't give up and keep attacking. Iltak's attacks didn't work at all against Dauan. Dauan doesn't understand the meaning of revenge from what Iltak said. But what is certain, that Dauan is not interested in him at all. His knife attack was anticipated by wooden shards. He immediately gripped Iltak's hand hard. Then dropped it hard, twisting his hand. He started to feel sick about it. It seems to sprain Iltak's hand, and Dauan tells him to answer the question. He asked Shin Woozing's current whereabouts. But he didn't seem to hear Dauan's words. And tried to ask why asking Shin Woozing. Because Iltak's action was too much, Dauan immediately stepped on the injured hand. The Haegwang begins to look down on Iltak because he has lost, and once again he is at the bottom. But he won't let this happen. Then he started attacking again with the knife towards Dauan's legs. But it was in vain, he managed to kick the knife away. Then took the knife again. Dauan immediately used it on Iltak's hand. This caused him to suffer an injury to his hand. And now he immediately takes his feet, for not answering Dauan's question seriously. He was serious about making his legs useless. He was starting to get scared about this. Finally he give up and will tell everything he knows. Shin Woozing's current whereabouts are unknown, it's a secret location even within Haegwang. But that wasn't the answer Dauan wanted to know. But Iltak know, there's someone knows where Shin Woozing is. Haegwang executive knows where his boss now. The executive's name is Moon Sungo. And it seems Dauan knows the man. The man who once pretended to be his friends. And in the past wants to fight with him too. Ended with Dauan losing in the fight. It seems that soon they will meet and fight again. And coincidentally Dauan is also looking for Sungo too.